Hello all, it is a joy to be with you here today. And I will be announcing our first hymn sung by our wonderful CCUU member, Dion DeVille, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much. And thank you so very much for the amazing musical talent that you have helped, and Alicia Cook and Jacqueline Luck and others have helped make sure come through our church doors. I know that Susie McHugh as well has done so much to help us in this time with music. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So welcome back to our church sanctuary virtually for our Community Church Unitarian Universalist Water Ingathering service. I'm your minister, Reverend Darcy Roake, and I'm honored to be back at the pulpit after parental leave. I look forward to the day that I can introduce you all in person to our family's newest addition, August Roake Van Young. But until then, I would like to introduce you to one of our newest, now I suppose I have to say friends, because as you know, in our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we don't join until adolescence, but this is our newest addition, August Roake Van Young, to our church community. So this is allowing me to take a moment to express my immense gratitude to the amazing CCUU board, staff, and members who not only allowed me to take much needed time with my family, but who also led our congregation beautifully and ably over the last few months. So, who are we as Community Church? We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. And so, as you know, there may be some changes throughout the fall, but for now, we want to let you know that we still have our Thursday announcement email, which gives our link to the Zoom worship. It's a new way, it's how to connect to our church community and get involved. We also have our website at ccuunola.org. You can always email us at office@ccuunola, or you can email me at minister@ccuunola. After this service, I want to thank Dion DeVille, our former board president and amazing active member, for leading our coffee hour, which will be directly after this service on Zoom. But today we're going to be having an unprecedented virtual water service for an unprecedented year. Normally, we would come together, bringing our individually blessed waters to a communal blessing water bowl. For the most obvious of reasons, coronavirus and our need to stay physically but not spiritually distanced, that in-person ritual cannot be. And so we begin a new socially distanced ritual today, the blessing of our own water at home and a recognition of growth and destruction that water, our lives, 2020 in general, has brought. So if you haven't already, in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to ask you all to get a cup of water. You'll see I have a bowl, but a cup of water sometime in the next few minutes. So first, let us light our chalice. I'm going to ask Sebastian Roake Van Young to come forward to light our chalice in this time. And I'm going to ask our amazing religious education director, Cynthia Ramirez, which it is wonderful to see you, Cynthia, to read the words of our chalice lighting.
Good morning, everybody. Sebi is going to come up and do the chalice for us. and I will read the chalice lighting for you. It's called Spirit of Water. It was written by the RE director at First Church, Katie Gelfand. We light this chalice as a symbol of reunion. We unite in the sanctuary to share the flow of our hearts with one another. We gather together in ritual to celebrate our fountains of joy, to hold each other through storms of grief, to guide one another through rapids of transformation, to rest together on ponds of stillness. Together, we honor the spirit of water, its many forms, and its life-giving essence. I'm going to do a little something different for Times for All Ages. It's the video. Of course, it's the Ganunicorn video. We remember the Ganunicorn that came and spoke to all of everyone. So the Ganunicorns are we're going to do something a little different this fall with RE, and that is that we're going to combine all the three churches together to create a combined RE lesson. So that's going to be at 9 o'clock Sunday morning, starting on September 27th. So with that in mind, I'm going to get the Ganunicorns to tell you a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Hello there. We are the Ganunicorns. What's a Ganunicorn, you ask? A Ganunicorn is a magical creature from the land of Ganu. Haven't heard of it? Today, we are going to tell you the story of Ganu. Let us first introduce ourselves. I'm Katie Gelfand, the Director of Religious Exploration at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of New Orleans.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Ramirez. I'm the Director of Religious Education at Community Church Unitarian Universalist.
Hi, I'm Erica Merchant Lee, and I'm the DRE at North Shore Unitarian Universalist Society. Once upon a time, there were three congregations who had a lot in common, but didn't really notice because they were all busy doing things their way. Then, in 2005, a great storm came. The waters scattered the people of the greater New Orleans region far and wide. Some stayed away. Others came back to rebuild.
In the after-storm light, members of the three congregations saw each other with new eyes. Instead of noticing all the ways that they were different, they began to appreciate their similarities, recognizing how much they had in common with each other.
After careful consideration, they decided to form a cluster, a separate group made up of representatives from each church to share in the work of rebuilding our UU churches and extending our outreach into the community.
Two new organizations were formed. The first was the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal, which was an outgrowth of a volunteer organization to aid the rebuilding of New Orleans. The second was the team formed by three churches working together named GNU, the Greater New Orleans Unitarian Universalists.
Over time, GNU representatives, the three congregations' ministers, and GNU's own community minister met regularly and faithfully as a separate board. But they began to feel less and less sure about what a GNU was supposed to do and wondered if they really had that much in common after all.
Then one day a new person joined the GNU board with an exciting idea. Maybe GNU was not a thing. Maybe instead of being a noun, GNU was a verb, an action, something you can do. They imagined GNU not as a separate organization, but as the combination of First Church, Community Church, and NSUUS, and the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal, all GNUing together. The GNU board, instead of creating ways for these four to canoe together, could focus more on ways to support their canoeing.
Then, sadly, the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice closed down. GNU's very own community minister, who was employed as the director of the center, moved away. And GNU became a collective of just the three congregations. But the vision of GNUing together remained. And the GNU board held the vision and the reality of the three congregations working collaboratively.
That's where we come in. We GNUnicorns meet twice a month to talk about religious exploration programs, look for opportunities to make connections between the congregations, work to create a cohesive RE offering, and we support, inspire, and uplift each other.
Today, the potential of GNU is realized in continuing collaborations around comprehensive sexual education, religious education, social justice projects, annual retreats, shared worship services, and working on our congregation's visibility and public presence. And still, more collaboration awaits our imagination, commitment, and willing hands.
But what, you may be wondering, is a GNUnicorn? We felt that the DREs needed a mascot, a symbol of inspiration, mystery, and hope to support our collaborative work together. The spirit of the unicorn visited each of us and whispered in our ears that the unicorn would infuse our work with magic, joy, and possibility. And 2 years ago, we became the GNUnicorns.
We hope you have enjoyed our story and that the magical spirit of the GNUnicorns will inspire you towards meaningful and creative collaborations. Have a blessed day and happy GNUing to you all.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so very much, Cynthia and Katie and Erica from our, I'm going to say sister churches today. It is wonderful, and may the magic of the unicorn help us all in 2020. As you can see also, Cynthia has brought the magic of the unicorn in her face mask as well. So these are important details. Speaking of something very important, I am delighted to reintroduce someone into this community that many of you know very well. The Reverend Jim Vanderweel was minister of Community Church Unitarian Universalist for 16 years. And he is beloved by many, by all. We are so delighted that he and his wife Shirley have moved back to Baton Rouge. And as part of that, and as part of the 2-year period where we have had some distance and separation, we are now able to come back together again. And in a pretty important time, I think. I think his ministry is much appreciated and needed. So he is our minister emerita. And so we are delighted to right now have a shared covenant with Reverend Jim, led by our board president, Amy Earhart Lovelace. So I'm now going to ask our board president to begin our words of intention and covenant as a church community.
Good morning. This is a covenant between Reverend Jim Vanderweel, Minister Emerita, and Reverend Darcy Roake, Minister of Community Church, Unitarian Universalist in New Orleans. We all recognize that after a lengthy and successful tenure as parish minister, and with the requisite 2-year period of separation concluded, Reverend Jim remains in the consciousness of the congregation. At the same time, we wish for Reverend Darcy's ministry to continue to be successful. With these goals understood between us, Reverend Darcy Roake and Reverend Jim Vanderweel make the following covenant with each other.
As ministers and as Unitarian Universalists, we both want what is best for our movement, and in particular for Community Church UU. The health of the congregation and the continuing pursuit of its mission matter deeply to us. And as colleagues, we also desire to be in right relationship with one another.
Reverend Jim, as Minister Emerita of Community Church UU, is always welcome to attend church events and worship services as any other member of our community. As he and his spouse Shirley are now in relationship with our sibling congregation in Baton Rouge, no expectation of their attendance or involvement will be maintained. The invitation remains, however. If he should wish to, Reverend Jim may return to the pulpit as a guest preacher, lead adult religious education classes, participate in CCUU justice work, or get involved in other areas that Reverend Jim and Reverend Darcy agree would be a healthy addition to our community. However, there is no formal expectation of participation. At any major institutional event, such as rededications or anniversary celebrations, Reverend Jim will be invited to take a ceremonial role with Reverend Darcy.
In terms of social relationships with members of CCUU, I, Reverend Jim, pledge to maintain an appropriate boundary and to be clear in my relationships that Reverend Darcy is the congregation's minister. When families that are part of CCUU invite Reverend Jim to life cycle events such as weddings and memorial services, he is always welcome to attend and participate. He will, however, decline any invitation to officiate at such, referring folks to Reverend Darcy.
I, Reverend Darcy, as minister of CCUU, pledge to look to Reverend Jim as a respected area colleague. I am grateful to him for the good work he has done and proud of what this congregation accomplished during his tenure. Due to this respect and in the spirit of collegiality, I will remain in dialogue with Reverend Jim and both agree to be open to conversations about the ongoing health and development of this congregation. Reverend Darcy and Reverend Jim, we both pledge to honor the letter and spirit of the UUMA, Ministerial Association's Code of Conduct, which counsels mutual sensitivity, respect, and support between ministers, particularly those who share an intimate connection to the same institution.
In summary, Reverends Darcy and Jim pledge their respect for each other and their desire that this congregation should flourish as a religious community. Reverend Jim will honor the fact that Reverend Darcy is now the minister of CCUU, and Reverend Darcy will honor both Reverend Jim's service as his predecessor and the fact that he is retired and entitled to enjoy all the rights and privileges thereof.
It's Amy's reading. And now it is wonderful. I am so delighted that Reverend Jim has come into our fold again. We are so, so happy you'll join us. And I'm very excited from the conversations I've already had with him and with Amy, our board president, about what we can do together in the next year and the years to come. So with that, let us begin our service in earnest with a reading from writer and Scottish mountaineer Nan Shepherd, read by Amy Earhart Lovelace.
The most appalling quality of water is its strength. I love its flash and gleam, its music, its pliancy and grace, its slap against my body, but I fear its strength. I fear it as my ancestors must have feared the natural forces that they worshipped. All the mysteries are in its movement. It slips out of holes in the earth like the ancient snake. I have seen its birth, and the more I gaze at that sure and unremitting surge of water at the very top of the mountain, the more I am baffled. We make it all so easy. Any child in school can understand it. Water rises in the hills, it flows and finds its own level, and man can't live without it. But I don't understand it. I cannot fathom its power.
So a constant for our water service, even in this inconstant time, we in Louisiana feel the destructive power of water acutely. We replay in our minds the frenzied and somewhat perversely excited Weather Channel updates. Aren't we feeling that today? We recall the afternoon downpours, drowning out the oppressive summer heat and drowning us in fear. We breathe a collective sigh of relief in the late fall of another year spared the worst of it. This year so far, the Lake Charles area has faced the wind and water's worst with the Category 4 storm. The devastating effects laid bare, the coverage and aid along with it slipping away under waves of incendiary news headlines. And now we await the news of an incoming storm here in New Orleans. So why on earth would we do our first part of the blessing destructive waters at this time? Perhaps because we cannot bless only part of water. We must bless its whole. Religious traditions across time speak of the destruction and creation cycle of water and the universe. From the drenched Hindu creation stories of Manu to the tale of Noah's Ark in the Hebrew Testament, water has long enveloped the world. Then, instead of leaving the world in devastation, this flood water helps it grow again. Creation and destruction flowing together in and through water. So we humans, we're comprised of almost 60% water. And so water's destructive and creative power is perhaps the best metaphor, not only for the times in which we live, but for us humans as well. We humans create, and most acutely felt at this moment, destroy, perhaps more than any other animal on this planet. In these United States, many of us are aware of what is attempting to be destroyed by the current administration. Basic human rights, democracy, the post office, and we will, throughout the next couple of months, do what we can as a faith community to resist that destruction. But today, I also want to focus on what destruction can then create. For example, the destruction of old ways of being, most acutely felt in the Black Lives Matter activism, and the growth that can emerge from that same destruction. But first, before I get ahead of myself, let's do our first part of our water ceremony. You have your cup with you. With your tiny microcosm in a cup, I want you to take a little bit of your water and find something that water alters, changes, or destroys. Just think about that for a moment. Words that I have now already said on a piece of paper and dip it in the water. Recognizing the change that it casts as the ink starts to blend. It's still here, but it's going to be unable to function in its original form. That is our destructive power of water. And now we come to the part of our service where we talk about what has been hurt, destroyed, changed in our lives, as well as what is creating, bringing growth and newness and care. This is our time for joys and sorrows. So in this time, I ask you in the chat box to lift up your joys and your sorrows as we listen to Peace Like a River. You're going to have an opportunity to write those in the chat box. I'm going to be reading those aloud after our musical moment. Now is a sacred time, even virtually, especially virtually, for us to see each other's names and lift up each other's joys, as well as be with each other in our sorrows. Now is our time for joys and sorrows. now like to lift up our community's joys and sorrows. Our wonderful religious education director, Cynthia, will be lighting our candles today. First, Jim and Vera O'Neill are asking for healing energy. Their niece's 27-year-old daughter, Jenna, is transgender and took her life because of pain and not being understood and accepted for the beautiful person she was by our narrow-minded culture. Our family and our world will miss Jenna. We light a candle of love and care. There is a joy of glad to hear about the new relationship between Jim and Shirley. You came in time to share a new storm, you absolutely did, but you escaped the fires of the West. It is welcome news. That is from Howard Milkey. Amy Earhart Lovelace is full of gratitude this morning for our CCUU family. What a joy to have our beloved minister, Reverend Darcy, thank you, back with us in the pulpit today. And Dion, your voice during the intro was so incredibly beautiful, so true. Thank you for sharing your gift of song with us. Cynthia, you are fabulous, as always. We send also love and support in this community through Jim and Vera's loss. All our love to your hearts. Al Malone is snug in the storm shelter in Baton Rouge, grateful that he beat the traffic jam. And that was from Alan, Marilyn, and Minnie the Wonder Cat. So they are all there and safe. Alicia Cook has a joy that although virtual teaching is incredibly hard, she's so much more at peace with her new job than she ever was in my old one. As she writes, I feel like I'm doing the most important thing I could be doing right now, and grateful for the opportunity. We are so grateful for you as well, Alicia, and all that you're doing. Howard Milkey is joyful for the beautiful sunny day and return of Darcy to the pulpit. Hang strong, y'all. Scott writes, pray for everyone fighting all the devastating fires and those in danger and those who have been affected. Yes, I'd like to lift that up as well, the fires in Washington, Oregon, and California, and all those that are affected. A sorrow to share from Donald Ray. His mother just discovered she has cancer last week and is now in the ICU for kidney failure. He'll be heading soon to Pennsylvania to figure out next steps. Sending you and your family so much love, Donald. May you know that our thoughts and prayers are with your mother and with you and your family. We are lifting up prayers for those in Lake Charles. And there are others in our chat, as we as a community, who are supporting and praying for Donald and his family as well. And that's part of it. As hard as it may be to speak our sorrows in this time, and there may be many, please know that when you speak these sorrows, you are being held in community. We are here for you in any way that we can be. And we want you all to know that we at Community Church Unitarian Universalists are here in our times of deep sorrow, and we are here too to celebrate the joyous moments. In our lives, in our waters ebb and flow, we will have both. May we celebrate the joys and always, always stay present too for our sorrows. In love and care, we light one more candle for all the joys and all the sorrows that are yet unspoken, that we have yet to be able to even articulate. Know too, we hold you in these joys and these sorrows. And so now we move to growth. Our next reading from the great Thomas Merton, Trappist monk, theologian, and activist, will be read by Minister Emeritus Jim Vanderweel. This reading will help us consider how the very nature of destruction, its blessing, can lead to something entirely new. Reverend Jim.
Reverend Darcy selected a meditation from Thomas Merton and asked me to share it with you. I've long appreciated Merton an American Trappist monk, a writer, theologian, mystic, poet, social activist, and scholar of comparative religion. His interest in the face of the world, unique at its time, led him to lively conversations with the Dalai Lama, B.T. Suzuki, Buddhadasa, and Thich Nhat Hanh. He was at the forefront of interfaith dialogue in the 1950s and 60s. Thomas Merton. It is my intention to make my entire life a rejection of a protest against the crimes and injustices of war and the tyrannies to destroy the whole human race.
Thank you, Reverend Jim. And one of the things that we are doing as a church community is continuing to work on our technology. And so in the future, we hope to have some pre-recorded segments, but offsite can be difficult. So I heard I read some issues with the reading. So I'm going to reread from onsite this piece by Thomas Merton. It is my intention to make my entire life a rejection of, a protest against the crimes and injustices of war and political tyranny, which threaten to destroy the whole human race and the world. By my life and vows, I am saying no to all the concentration camps, the aerial bombardments, the staged political trials, the judicial murders, the racial injustices, the economic tyrannies, and the whole socioeconomic apparatus, which seems geared for nothing but global destruction, in spite of all its fair words in favor of peace. I make silence a protest against the lies of politicians, propagandists, and agitators. And when I speak, it is to deny that my faith and my church can ever seriously be aligned with these forces of injustice and destruction. My life then must be a protest against those who invoke their faith in support of war, racial injustice, and tyranny. If I say no to all these secular forces, I also say yes to all that is good in this world and in all humanity. I say yes to all that is beautiful in nature. I say yes to all the men and women and people who are my brothers and sisters and siblings in the world. So, while Thomas Merton doesn't wade into the waters of metaphor in our reading today, he does boldly articulate what we might be blessed to do as water-filled bodies, as Unitarian Universalists. That is, to recognize what is in need of a spiritual rainstorm in ourselves and our society, clearing away the rot so that new life, new ways of being can emerge. Merton, in many ways, is making what I like to call a Janus statement. By saying no to certain things, war and tyranny, he's actually opening up a way to say yes to others, all that is good in the world. So Janus was a two-headed god in Roman mythology. One face looking one way, the other face looking the other. He was the god of beginnings and transitions. He presided over passages and gates, as well as in transitional periods, which I think we're in, such as from war to peace. He was depicted as having two faces looking opposite ways, one towards the past and the other towards the future. I think Janus is a most apt symbol for our country's moment in time. Are we not in a time of transition? And is this not a time to look forward by questioning the past? So Black Lives Matter was created by 3 Black women, Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Opal Tometi, in 2013 as a call for nonviolent protest against incidents of police brutality and racially motivated violence against Black people. But mass response, and let's be real, many white people's recognition of police brutality toward Black people arose primarily in June and May of this year with nationwide protests. A change, an actual rumbling in the waters was felt more acutely. The many decentralized Black leaders of Black Lives Matter have been holding up the Janus and wading in the waters of creation and destruction for a while now. They're looking back in truth-telling to destroy false narratives of democracy for all and a nation built on slavery, a nation that continues to hurt Black people. At the same time, the Janus head is also looking forward, considering something new, the beginnings of a country reckoning with itself, the growth, often hard and tangled and muddy, of truly equitable policies, laws, and ways of being in our criminal justice system, our healthcare, our education. And in this time of white nationalist pushback from other American citizens, sinking boat parades, violent armed resistance to counter protests, our administration's banning of teaching anti-racist curricula, we, perhaps like Noah in the ark, are wondering, what's next? Will we flood and never rebuild? Or is something new growing? Is something new being tended to? It's like, to me, planning with the coronavirus. The minute you think you figured something out, a child's remote school schedule, a plan for recording worship, a workday where you get more than 2 things done, a monthly budget after you've lost your job, it's upended. We simply do not know. The Janus head actually only sees the past and the future. The Janus head cannot speak reality into our present existence. In 2017, we at Community Church UU committed to anti-racism work. From trainings to book groups to worship supporting directly impacted folks' leadership. We have continued in this spiritual work, often clumsily, and we will continue. But this continuation must remain fluid like water, more accountable, centered not in the idea of what we think racial justice looks like as a majority, but not completely white church, but instead what it looks like to those directly impacted folks who are leading. We must too, as we think about this new church year, take a look at our church itself. Who are we in this most interesting moment? Who do we hope to be? This is going to be hard, sacred work. We don't know what new topography a flooded plain might bring. But I do believe that if we flow with these waters of change, they may bring new growth beyond our very imagining. So I'm going to ask that we now use part of our water, 1/3 of a cup, to make something grow. This is our second of 3 parts of our water blessing. Do you have a plant nearby? Maybe give it a little nourishment. Are you feeling thirsty? Take a sip. Take a moment to find water's transformative power. May you have blessed that water with the growth that you brought.
Now it's time for the offering. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends generously help us to do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online at www.ccunola.org/stewardship/ or by text at 504-370-2659 and text GIVE to be prompted to make a donation. For virtual donations, please note that there is about a 3% process fee, so you'll be able to add that to your calculation. Much appreciated. You can also send a check to CCUU at 6690 Fleur-de-Lis Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70124. And I believe those are posted in the chat if you have any questions. Thank you.
We thank you for the gifts that you bring to this community, financial, and also the gifts of your hands and hearts. It helps us sustain our work even in the most difficult of times, the times when church and our community hopefully will continue to be there for you and for so many others. We thank you for all that you do. So what does our final blessing in growth and destruction look like in this most unprecedented year? I think the wise words of Chinese-American martial artist, thinker, and icon, Bruce Lee, says it best.
This is what it is, okay? I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Bruce Lee, in his art and his life, as the website Brain Pickings notes, integrated an understanding of what you heard of be water as Wu Wei, the principle of spontaneous action that is governed by the mind, not the senses. As Wu Wei is explained in the Taoist text, the Tao Te Ching, nothing is weaker than water. But when it attacks something hard or resistant, then nothing withstands it, and nothing will alter its way. Water. Nothing is weaker, and when resisted, nothing will alter its way. This final water blessing is then for us all in the coming months and years to be like water, to have faith like water. If we truly believe that we are on a lifelong search for spiritual truth and meaning as Unitarian Universalists, then in this most unprecedented time, we must weaken our resolve to stick to the way we've always done things, in church, in our lives, in our society. We must weaken our resolve to stick to narratives of our country and faith that recall our nation's history as pure, unblemished, free from the toxins that choke the water off of our Gulf Coast. As writer Alan Watts notes for our coming faith journey, faith for us will be a state of openness or trust. To have faith is like when you trust yourself to the water. You don't grab hold of the water when you swim, because if you do, you will become stiff and tight in the water and you will sink. You have to relax. And the attitude of faith is the very opposite of clinging and holding on. The attitude of faith is to let go and become open to truth, whatever it might turn out to be. So our blessing today is that we be open to evolving truths, as hard as they may be, whatever they may be. With that knowledge, we can create a more loving, just, and equitable way of being in the world. In this sacred work, we can transform our pliable selves to become a strong and intractable ocean of compassion, care, resilience, and spiritual maturity. So finally, let us all bless this bit of water we have left. It's going to represent the times too when we are weary, when we feel as if we have nothing left. Right now, let us bless this small piece of us, the one that will always endure in 2020 and beyond. That will endure thanks in no small part to our Unitarian Universalist faith and community. I want us to bless ourselves, each other, and our community, Church Unitarian Universalist. The words of Ramwa Hamani will guide us in our blessing as we place our hands over our cups. So this is at home as well. You will be doing the water blessing. This water is sacred. It is made sacred by the many hands that have poured it with intention and love, the many stories that each drop contains, the many lives surrounding it in this unique moment, connected by commitment and faith. This water is sacred. May it continue to flow through this community with shining reflections of the unique gifts that flow through each of its members. And now please repeat after me. This water is sacred. This water is sacred. Take this water now and bring it where it will do the most good. I'm going to be pouring this water at the foot of our sanctuary door. One day, your feet will touch our water blessing as you walk through our church doors for a Sunday service. But until that time comes again, a benediction from Jan Richardson, Still in the Storm.
I cannot claim to still the storm that has seized you, cannot calm the waves that wash through your soul, that break against you, your fierce and aching heart.
But I will wade into these waters. We'll stand with you in this storm. We'll say peace to you in the waves, peace to you in the winds, peace to you in every moment that finds you still within the storm. We love you. We care for you. We bless you. We are Community Church Unitarian Universalist, and we say, Amen.